All right. So this may sound ungrateful, but appreciation doesn't actually fix burnout, right? If appreciation actually worked, then most high functioning men wouldn't actually be as tired as they are. And they may be praised, they may be respected, they're definitely relied on, but they're still quietly just exhausted. And this is not a gratitude problem. It's actually a support problem. And when I say support, I don't mean external. They need more people around them, right? I'm talking about internal support. So it's not about being tired as far as feeling lazy or maybe there's a lack of discipline, but I'm talking about that responsibility that's just living inside their nervous system 24/7. The burnout isn't about the long hours, isn't about the hard seasons. They know how to deal with that. They've probably mastered that. Most of them enjoy that. I love a challenge. I love to be pushed, but the burnout is about being on all the time, right? Never standing down internally. No place to set down this weight that we carry just day after day, dealing with all the responsibility. So with men, it's not about they're just doing too much because a lot of us thrive off of that. We enjoy it, right? But we're burned out from actually just holding everything alone, not feeling that, hey, I can lean on this person. I can just let it all go just for a little while. And it's safe to do that. And there's a big difference because there's still many of us that hold that space for others, but we are not allowed to actually have that space to just set it down and just let go, even just for a moment, and feel like that's okay. And it's not that appreciation is bad. Appreciation is a beautiful, powerful thing. But for many high performing men, it's just a surface thing. It's just hits the ego, right? It doesn't hit their soul. It doesn't hit them deep within themselves, their actual being. So they don't truly identify with it. They identify with the performance that they're already putting on. They identify with, okay, you appreciate the things that I'm doing for you. You appreciate that I'm giving to you. You appreciate that I'm doing for you. I'm here for you. I'm supporting you. All right. You appreciate I'm building all these things and you can get value from them. Awesome. But then there's that kind of silent question. It's like, all right, what about me? When you're saying you're doing a good job, that's great. But again, the value is in the thing that they're building, not actually them. There's a disconnect. All right. And so they always feel like, okay, I'm carrying this weight alone, but I have to. If I don't, who else will? I have to build. I have to fight. I have to push. And appreciation, again, in general, it does help. It does connect in some spaces, but it doesn't actually fill that gap, that separation. Right. And so, brothers, like you can feel appreciated and still have your nervous system just braced, just ready to go, ready to have to push, ready to have to hold us all together, always having the armor on because you feel you have to, right? You can be praised to the mountaintops and still feel completely unsupported. And that gap, that gap is where resentment grows because that distance between, okay, they appreciate everything that I'm doing. They appreciate everything that I give. They don't actually appreciate me, right? If I stop doing all these things for them, they won't appreciate me anymore. If I stop bending over backwards, if I stop filling up their buckets, then I'm no longer valuable to them. I'm no longer useful to them. And they do say, right, that's a man's job. That's what it's about. That's how you provide value. But at the same time, we still need a space where that's not honestly the core of our value. that's something that we provide because it's an expression, because we are high performing men and we just build stuff and we do things and we supply and we provide and we protect. But at the same time, even if I missed a day on doing that, I am still valuable, just as valuable. That's that distance. So we getting up in the space where it's like, okay, they appreciate me so much. Why the hell do I still feel alone? If they value me so much, why don't I feel like just the little things that I need from me always get overlooked? Because those little things that you choose not to complain about, those little things is that proof or that access that allows us to say, okay, I am just appreciated deeply just for me, right? They do want to actually give back to me. They do want to show that I am valued besides just what I'm giving to them. And so we have to be careful, right? That appreciation doesn't become a trap because it can feel good in that moment. Because that's what we get used to and say, well, this is what love is. This is what safety is. And so therefore, I don't need the support. I'm not going to get that. So I'm just going to settle for simply just appreciation. And in that space, that's when your nervous system definitely gets stuck, right? And it excuses the imbalance of if you're continually pouring into other people's cup and your cup is never getting filled, you get burnt out. Again, it's not even about the external stuff. That's the thing. It's about what's happening internally for you. What do things mean, right? How do things connect? How are you being supported in your soul, in your heart, in your spirit? And we can turn this again on ourselves and say, you know what? I should be grateful. I have it better than other people. And that sure may be true, right? You probably do. But if you continue to lie to yourself and say, okay, I should be grateful, then you turn that into judgment. Every time you feel unsupported, you judge yourself. Every time you feel alone, you judge yourself. And then you start questioning yourself. It's like, what's wrong with me? Why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep feeling like this? Why am I broken inside that I just feel this distance? I feel this space and I shouldn't feel that. I should be happy and content and everything should feel good because look at what I created. Everybody else is happy. The people I'm around are happy. So I should be happy. But it doesn't work like that. Wish it did. That'd be really cool, but it shit doesn't. So we end up in this pattern of survival. Okay. And that survival pattern makes us even more high performing because we learn to just be useful, to be reliable, to be strong, to be powerful. We learn that we are the ones that can be leaned on, and we try to teach ourselves, don't expect anything. And you try to teach ourselves that's just the nature of how the relationship has to work, how the connection has to work. Whether this is in marriage, whether this is with kids, whether this is honestly even at a job. When we get into that space and you feel like subconsciously you're just not supported, when you feel like subconsciously that you're not seen, then you will always wear the mask, you will always wear the armor, you will always be in survival, and you will continue to get the little carrots of that feel good, which can be appreciation, right? But we just continue to self-abandon at that point, right? We continue to ignore what we need. We continue to ignore what we feel We continue to ignore anything that gets in the way of being useful, being reliable, being powerful, and performing. And that's why internally we just end up feeling dead inside. So over time being needed, we try to connect that to being valued, which is not the same thing, right? And so that exhaustion, we take that as that's part of what we earn for giving like we give. But the questions would be things like, who did you learn to carry this for? At one point in our lives, we had to be that person to carry the weight. Maybe we felt like it was needed. We felt like we had to supply, we had to perform, we had to do these things to be accepted, to be loved, for whatever. But it's like, who did you learn to carry this for? All right, second question, when did resting start to feel irresponsible? But even when I say resting is not necessarily just sitting down on the couch for a little bit, because even when you rest, do you allow yourself to actually mentally rest? Do you allow yourself to not have to think about all the things that you need to do? Do you allow yourself to actually rest and somebody say they need something and you say, not right now? Do you set those boundaries for yourself? When did that start feeling irresponsible? When did that start feeling selfish to actually get the rest mentally, spiritually, emotionally that you actually need? Oh man, it's like, when did being praised, right, replaced being supported? But there's a lot of us that don't even know what being supported actually feels like. And that's a bigger problem that we won't get deep into today. So in actuality, there's going to be times where appreciation actually makes it worse, right? And this feels definitely counterintuitive, and that's good that it does, right? Because appreciation can sometimes, not even sometimes, most of the time when you're in this space, it increases expectation, right? When we get attached to that appreciation, we get attached to that good feeling of somebody saying good job and things like that, and take that as our value, take that as, hey, it shows that I'm worthy, then it just forces us to push harder, to keep getting the drug, to keep getting the high, to keep getting that appreciation. And so it actually makes things worse because we continue to separate from what we actually need to actually reset, right? We don't get in that space where we can actually be aware of what we need to be supported properly, because we're latching on to this appreciation. So it makes us drive harder, but still from a survival state, right? It makes us show up more, but in exchange for worth, in exchange for validation, in exchange for appreciation. So that pressure lives in the body. It's not on the calendar. It's not on your to-do list. It just lives in the body. So even when there's nothing wrong, the system just stays at alert. It stays ready, right? Someone might ask for something. Something might need to be fixed. You may have to just show up for somebody at some point, somewhere, at any time. So your nervous system just stays in that place where it's like it has to be ready all the time. Because if you can't show up, if you can't perform, if you can't do, then you just lost your value. You just lost your worth. And for some, deep down, that means losing love. That means losing everything that they feel is important to them, their self-worth when it comes down to it. But again, that's tied to that external appreciation. And the problem isn't that no one appreciates you. The problem is that, again, you have no internal place to stand where you feel like you're on solid ground. Everything is always sinking sand. Everything is always shifting ground. Everything is always a moving target, right? And so what is the fix? Where do we even go from here? Okay, burnout resolves when responsibility stops living in our nervous system. And that means what? It means actual internal safety. It means that you give yourself permission to pause without collapse, without fear, without worry, without any risk to yourself. And so that means actually putting yourself in a place where you don't need to prove anything, putting yourself in a place where you no longer need the validation, appreciation, or anything else. That does not mean that everything burns to the ground, right? Because you have things that actually mean something to you. It doesn't mean doing less. It just means carrying it cleanly. The feel of it is different. It's the same responsibility, but there's much less internal pressure, because that's what's causing the burnout. That's what's causing the disconnection. Okay. So if appreciation was really enough, this wouldn't still feel heavy. And I'll just use this one example. There are things that you have probably done in the past that required you to stay up late, that required you to give your all for long periods of time. There's times that you've worked on things that were so meaningful to you and it filled something in you that it's like hours passed by, you didn't eat, but you were just so filled with energy. You only slept for maybe an hour or two, but again, you were just excited to go and build this thing and do this thing, create this thing, whatever it was, right? And so this is again that example of why it's not necessarily an external thing. Because if it was, you would have been burnt out then. But it's actually something internal, because you can do the hours, you can do the times, you can do the work and everything else. But if you're carrying that weight and your nervous system is never in a place of safety, then it will burn out. It will get crushed. It will get depleted because it has no place to restore. It has no place to recharge, even in quietness. It just doesn't know how. So if gratitude actually fixed this, then rest would work. But it doesn't, right? How many times have you gone on a vacation and then you come back and you feel like you're more tired than when you left? That's crazy, but it's very real. And if this landed uncomfortably, if this landed and it triggered something, then that's not a flaw. That's not something wrong. It's just awareness. And the more you are aware of these things, then the more access you have of actually making the shift, right? So you don't need more praise. You've got enough of that. You just need somewhere to actually put this weight down and feel safe about it, right? This is where and when everything changes.